35 years ago today, February 11th, 1988, Dr. Timothy Leary was in Cleveland to make an appearance at Peabody's Down Under in the Flats, and he also stopped by Live on 5 on Channel 5, WEWS, and had a chat with Wilma Smith. And Wilma started off a little bit antagonistic in her own well-honed and gentle style. And in his own well-honed, gentle style, Timothy Leary talked her down, and they had a nice little chat. He even took a couple of calls that are good as well. So enjoy this pretty darn rare Timothy Leary clip from 35 years ago today.
In the 1960s, one man shocked the country, really, by advocating the use of LSD, an illegal drug. The man was a Harvard researcher and became one of the centerpieces of the counterculture during the 1960s. His name, Timothy Leary, and he joins us today live on 5. We're going to be taking your calls as well, so if you have a question or a comment for Mr. Leary, give us a call. 578-1000, the number. Think for yourself and question authority. Certainly one of the bottom lines of your whole philosophy.
That's the idea. I'm basically a philosopher.
Yes.
I'm a card-carrying philosopher, got a PhD, and for 38 years I've been playing or performing or practicing philosophy. And I'm a hard-working philosopher. I'm not on the field all the time. I was in Cincinnati last night, and I call myself the Pete Rose of philosophy because I'm out there hustling. And by the way,
player manager as well.
You know, LSD was not illegal when I was using it in research. Until 1968, not only was my research legal, but it was sponsored by Harvard University and by the federal government.
Yeah, if we talk about the LSD right here at the beginning, though. But if we talk about that LSD and you knew what the research was and you knew what it could do, you still had no regrets about encouraging people who might look to you for some leadership?
I hate to blow your low,
okay.
I never encouraged or advocated people to do anything except the most dangerous thing of all. Think for yourself. Make your own decisions.
Think for yourself and question authority.
And I don't care whether anyone does or does not smoke marijuana or take LSD, as long as you think for yourself and do it out of intelligence, not out of fear or doing what the kid next door does.
When did you start
and by the way,
living
I'm much in favor of Nancy Reagan's program, Just Say No. I think the Reagan White House is the weirdest collection of wackos since Caligula, the Roman emperor. But I agree with Nancy. You got to tell kids to say no. I've got a 14-year-old son, and we sit down with him. You say, you can't use drugs, you're too young. You can't use booze, you're too young. You can't use the car, you're too young. You can't use the chainsaw, you're too young. Call me Attila the Hun. But Republicans are so impolite. We tell our son, just say no, thank you.
Thank you.
You have no reason to be ill-mannered.
That's right, yes. Now that you have the son and a family, do you think your attitudes have changed at all? Do you still want your son to really think for himself?
Well, I tell you...
I mean, really think for himself when it comes to Dad telling him what to do. Sometimes when we're in a different boat, we think differently.
When it comes to energies that he cannot handle, like guns, booze, drugs, absolutely. I believe you got to sit down and persuade, invade, force your kid not to use the car, not to use the chainsaw, not to use drugs. On the other hand, when it comes to discussing politics or religion, we listen to him, we encourage him, try to help him think for himself. On the other hand, the average teenager today has no problem getting to think for themselves. They're thinking sometimes kids today are exposed to so much that we weren't exposed to. My 14-year-old kid is watching MTV, which is more pornographic than anything I saw until I was 40 years old. You know, they got $9.76 porn where 12, 14-year-old kids are doing that. Call me square, but I never heard of that. So it's even more necessary for parents and older siblings to tell kids not to use drugs. On the other hand, for adults, pro-choice. Do you think I'm going to let Nancy Reagan tell me who or what to put in my body? You can't tell Americans what to do with their bodies, and it's not common sense.
Do you think you've mellowed out? Listening to some of the things you're saying here compared to some of the things you've said over the years, do you think, for lack of another word, do you think you've mellowed in some of these theories?
Well, I hope so. I've come to realize that common sense and compassion are the two things we need. Frankly, none of us know why we're here. We've got these enormous brains. We're moving into a new age. The factory civilization is gone. I'm sorry, Cleveland, but there's going to no more assembly lines. Yes. We're all kind of scared and confused, and common sense and compassion are the keys. Is that mellow?
That's mellow. That's mellow compared to
Okay.
the other Timothy
I'm
Leary.
glad
we
I'm
knew.
mellow then.
Yes, let's take some calls. Good afternoon, your question.
Hi, I'd like to know if you think a social revolution could take place and not use the drugs so it's looked at in a more respectable light. Thank you.
Well, listen, don't talk to me about being respectable. I don't want to be credible, I want to be incredible, and I want to be outrageous. I'm going to be at Peabody's tonight, and I'm going to flood the audience. I'm going to try to do it with you right now. Flood you with ideas that'll make you think and get you off base and buzz your mind with new ideas. I don't want to be respectable. If I were respectable, a philosopher who's respectable should be thrown out of the union.
Give us little seeds that we can then nurture. Is that it?
The idea I'm going to buzz in the minds and ears of the people at Peabody's. A philosopher has got to be against the establishment. A philosopher is supposed to be thinking up new ideas and stirring up new thought and getting people to innovate, encouraging and empowering people to think for themselves. Right now I'm using computers as tools, not for IBM tax purposes, but as appliances so you can innovate and create and think for yourself.
Your question, hello.
I would like to ask you, sir, why they didn't throw that key away and lock you up with all the damage you did to young people that are now older.
Well, you see, you're under some misapprehension. We're not the Soviet Union. We're living in America. And all I ever did was express my opinion, shoot off my mouth, telling people to think for themselves. Now, you think I should be put in jail for expressing my opinion? If I'm wrong, hey, listen, there are a lot of smart people out there like the Reagan administration to straighten you out. Why? How can you possibly think that I should be put in jail for shooting my mouth off? It ain't Russia. This is good old America.
Timothy Leary.
Yeah.
Thank you for being with us today. Let's go back to Roy.
Thank you, Wilma.
Thanks for watching Cleveland Live Music. If you like staring into the sun with me, hit the subscribe button. There's Patreon and GoFundMe information in the video descriptions. Thanks for the support, and thanks for making the channel grow.